Hi, I'm Julie Davis with Blick Art Materials. Our project today is going to be a metalworking project. We're going to be making a textured metal box, like this one here. This looks as if it's something really heavy and old, something that may have been hammered out by an ancient silversmith. But really it's quite lightweight and very easy to do. Are you familiar with the term repoussé? Repoussé is a form of relief sculpture in which a design is pressed into metal from one side. And the term chasing is when you flip the metal over and press the design back into the metal from the opposite side. Now, if you want to create extreme dimension when you're tooling metal, you combine both processes, like we have here. Let's begin with a box. I like to use the paper mache boxes. These are very, very sturdy. They hold up to a lot of pressure. You don't want to use a box that's flimsy and that's going to collapse once we start working it. Paper mache boxes also come in the mini version, and if you wanted to do a project that was faster and a little bit less expensive, you could certainly do this project on a mini box. But because I want you to be able to see everything that I'm doing today, I'm going to be using the medium-sized box. The first step that we're going to do is we're going to apply a pattern over the surface of this box on the top and on the sides. We're going to make this pattern with found objects. So I'm going to show you how to use some wire. We can use buttons. We could use beads. We could use paper clips. We could use gems. We could use dried beans. Boy, the list could just go on and on of the materials that you could use to make patterns. It doesn't matter what it looks like at all. It's the texture that it's going to be making. So here's a piece of aluminum sculpture wire that I've bent into a little bit of a curlicue. And I would just attach that to the box with weld bond. This glue attaches metal, it attaches plastic, glass bits, and it's AP non-toxic, washes off of hands, and is very safe to use. Let me just set this aside for a moment, and I'm going to bring out a box that I've already covered and that the glue has already been dried on. As you see, I've left a section of the box at the top without anything on it, and of course that's so that the lid will fit easily back on and off again. The next step is to measure the metal that's going to go around the box. I have some 38 gauge metal tooling foil, which I've cut off of the roll. To get the dimensions, since we have an oval shaped box, I would measure with a tape measure around the box at the highest point where the largest button would be here. It's important to do this step after you've already put your items on the box because they will add a lot of dimension to it, more so than you think. Then I would also take the ruler and measure the box, add a little bit at the top, add a little bit at the bottom here for wrap. So about 4 inches would be good. To measure the metal for the top part of the box, I would take my box lid, lay it down on a piece of metal, use a tool to trace around the outside. Then I would take my ruler again and I would measure, a little bit more on the top, a little bit more on the bottom, and the dimension that you need for the height of the box lid itself. Then measure that around from the oval shape and cut it out, as I've done with this piece right here. All right, now it's time to wrap the metal on the box. A good way to start is to take your scissors and create tabs along the sides of the metal that you've cut. I've done this all the way down the edge here. This is just going to give it a little bit more of a tighter wrap. We're going to start on one area of the box and just work one area at a time. We don't need to glue it down. We want the metal to be able to stretch. So let's just work this small area right here at a time. Press it down. It needs to stay a little bit loose. Then I'm going to take my fingers and I'm going to rub them over the texture that I've made. This is the repoussé part of the project. The pressure from the top, from my fingers, is making the texture come through the metal from the back. Once I can see my design where it lies, bring back my wooden tool and we start chasing the metal back like this. You'll find you're able to get so much dimension by chasing around the metal like that. This is a project that can take some time. Your hand may get tired. You may want to take a break in between. This is a 38 gauge tooling foil. If I were doing the smaller boxes, I would use an economy foil. It comes on a 4-inch wide roll, so you can use a lot less of it that way, and it's lighter weight than the other material. And I do have a couple of finished boxes, small boxes here, that are covered with the economy foil. And you can see the buttons and the wire and the textures that I've created underneath there. Now, these are lovely just by themselves, but I want to show you a couple of different ways that you can create that antique texture, that antique look to them. The first way is really simple, a permanent marker. And I'm using Blick Studio markers today in black. It's a double-ended marker. It's best to use the broad side. And I'll just start coloring all over the top of the box, working the nib of the marker down into all of the little crevices that have been chased back, like so. Now I would do this method on a smaller box, but as you can see, it does take a little bit of time, and you would use a lot of marker to do this method. So to do a larger box, let me give you another option. This is Blick Black Cat ink. It's a waterproof India ink. I've got some in a palette here. I'm going to move up. Now, we'll brush it directly onto the metal. You'll notice that it tends to crawl and bunch up on the metal. This little well here has a bit of dishwashing soap. If I mix a little bit of that in with my ink, you'll see that it covers it very smoothly. This is a very inexpensive way to cover a box. We'd let that dry, and if you prefer a really dark coating, I would come back in and give it a second coat as well. After the pieces are dry, they're very dark, covered like this. In order to bring back some of that metal, bright metal, over the top, I'm going to take a piece of fine grit sandpaper. I'm just going to hit some of the high relief areas on this box. This will really, really make those patterns and textures stand out. See the difference there? All right, one last thing that I'd like to mention before we close. Even though it's permanent marker and permanent ink, it will tend to come off on your fingers. So I do recommend that you coat your finished project with a Blick fixative, either a matte fixative, so you get that really old matte look, or a gloss fixative if you would prefer. Let's come back and take a look, one last look at our finished project here. As an option, You can paint the inside. That makes it really beautiful. This is Sargent acrylic color in a bright gold. Then I'd also recommend that you take a piece of felt and cut it to the shape of the bottom. This will protect your table surface from any scratches that would occur with the metal. All right, those are textured metal boxes. I hope you try making one. They're really beautiful and they always turn out great. We have a PDF on our website that will give you step-by-step instructions and some more photos to help you along making your own project. There's also a complete materials list for all the processes that I've shown you here, and national standards for visual arts education as they relate to this project. Thank you so much for joining us today.